Pleasure Principles, the podcast where we explore the art and science of love, intimacy. I'm your host, Avik, and today we are diving into a topic that touches every relationship at its core. Yes, it's intimacy, compatibility. So, how do our love languages, expectations, and even the stress of our daily lives shape the way that we connect? Yes, this is really a good question, right? So, joining us today is the amazing Muriel Hunter. So, welcome to the show, Muriel.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Lovely, lovely. So, Muriel, like before we start our conversation, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Muriel is a transformative life coach and relationship strategist with over 20 years of experience. So her mission, her mission is to empower women over 30 to thrive in resilient, fulfilling, and harmonious partnerships. So especially in the second marriages. So, with a remarkable 37-year marriage herself and a network that spans high profile entertainers and athletes, Muriel brings a wealth of wisdom, real world strategies, and faith based insights to help us navigate love in all its complexities. So, whether you are in a relationship or searching for the one, or just trying to better understand how intimacy fits into your life, then you are in for an enlightening and heartfelt conversation. So, let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Muriel.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to share just a blend of things that have happened over the course of a lifetime. My background has always been in nurturing, from home care to nursing assistant, physical therapy, sports medicine, personal training. It just went on. So that is my life. That's who I am. And trying to mold all of those passions kind of came up to life coaching. And it happened in a way where my clients were all saying, "Why don't you do this for a living? Why don't you do this for a living?" I'm thinking, "Oh, okay, maybe I'll back up and go ahead and focus on getting the credentials to feel as if people will believe that I know what I know." So when I was owner of a Christian dating service, I
Mhm.
accidentally became a therapist. And it was the most wonderful, enlightening experience to be able to be a fly on the wall where men are saying, "This is what I need to feel loved," and women to say, "This is what I need to feel loved," and how to bridge that gap. That's kind of like the light bulb that goes on and just brought me to life because I was having such an amazing experience bringing people together that may not have ever crossed paths, but they were able to see the underlying issues first instead of just diving in. Therefore, v- from having associates, friends, and coworkers coming to me for advice for a lifetime. It evolved into life coaching, and I've been doing it my whole life. So now I have the credentials to back it up and have had just a wonderful experience.
Lovely, lovely. Great. And okay, so here, like, how do the love languages really impact the intimacy compatibility? What do you say?
Well, there are several love languages, and the issue is how do we read it?
Yeah.
They men and women interpret
Sure.
being loved differently. And the nice thing is, there are individuals that you can go to that'll kinda guide you through it. There were centuries where it was the grandma and great grandma and the moms, but a lot of the parents are still learning themselves because we've been thrust into a society where It's over mechanized, and we really have to be functional rather than having traditional roles where women would learn from other women. Now, when we're out in the workforce, equal to men. So, what I want people to understand is what is your love
mm,
language? There are formulas, but what is your love language? And with women, the intimacy is physical is not even half of it. The physical intimacy is the end result of all the work and energy and effort that you put in before you get to the bedroom. And it's an area that men have to be sensitive to, and they're learning. Hats off to you men out there who are taking time and energy to study and research and read and communicate. So I would put one of the love languages as a communication. On the top of the list, if you are not communicating, the how will you ever get direction? How will you ever know? Women tend to feel as if men should know. You
mm,
should know that I like this. You should know. Well, our brains work differently, and our focus and energy is different. And what is so hard about just reminding that individual, like, you know what, if you took the trash out every day and you would pick the kids up or you would allow me to have a nap, man, I have all that energy for you now. And if a woman has asked a number of times, or a partner have asked a number of times, then it's time to sit down and have that conversation one on one. Well, what do I need to do to make you feel valued? And sometimes individuals just don't feel valued enough to put that work out. Well, if you don't do it for me, then I'm not going to do it for you. And you're at a stalemate. That's not helping anyone. People that are married live longer. And just because you're married doesn't mean that you're happy. So it's a valuable piece of work. If you went to work every day and you saw someone who was being destructive to the company, they were going in and messing up the books or creating chaos or just making the workforce a difficult place to be in. We won't have a company. It will be divided. And as a believer, there's a scripture that says, a house divided cannot stand. So this is the most valuable, important structure on the planet. Without the family, we have nothing. It would just disintegrate. And now the complexity of being in in a relationship, okay, you've done all that work to get them, so now I don't have to do anything else. That means that the friendship is dissolving. And when you are thinking of a love language, think in terms of how would you treat your friend? And this person should be your friend because they're helping with your livelihood, dwelling, your relationships, your health. If one person falls, then that other one should be there to lift them up and to nurture and take them to the doctors or to listen to them, to be there, to be of value. So if the communication isn't there, how do you build? How do you grow? How do you move forward? And that is an issue because the art of listening, looking at your partner when you're talking, eye contact, stop doing the dishes, turn the music off, sit down and be present. It's an art that's falling. It's
mm,
falling by the wayside. So when you are communicating, be there 100%. Look into their eyes because you want that person to treat you the same way. If it's the baby is pulling at you, or, you have to finish this homework or whatever, think in terms of how long does it take
mm,
to have that conversation. You can wrap it up. It'll go by much faster if your partner believes that you are engaged and that you actually listen. The longer they talk and the louder they are generally means that they just don't feel heard. If you have a partner that is getting louder and louder, that's a symptom. That's a symptom. They're saying, "I don't feel heard." So, by all means, think in terms of your partner being a friend, and that communication is, like, way on the top of the list. And then the physical touch. How many times do you kiss in a day? There's some studies out there that women need 7 loving touches a day, or women that have 7 loving touches a day actually have, like, 50% less disease. Just a physical touch. There's healing in touch. So, if you are not an affectionate person, if you're not a touchy person, as the person walk by, you can just brush their hair. You can just put your hand on top of their hand. You can just let them know, "Hey, I love you." And this is a love language, touching, letting them know that you want to be there. And there was a story I heard of centuries ago. The story is from the centuries uh, past. And there was a woman that had a real problem with her mother-in-law and wanted to kill her. Went to a pharmacist or chemist at the time, I guess they would call it, and said, "Hey, put this poison together for me because I can't do it any longer." So he says, "Okay, it's in this oil. You put this oil on every day for 2 weeks. You give her a massage for 2 weeks, and she'll be dead." That was great. So she goes to the mother-in-law and she's, rubbing her neck and rubbing her feet and putting on this act of loving her. And over the course of the 2 weeks, she had an opportunity to get to know that person. And they became very, very intimate friends, very, very close friends. And before she could get to the end of the second week, she went back to the chemist and said, "Hey, listen, um, I don't want to do this anymore. What do I do to reverse it?" And he said, "You already did." So if you put the time in, it's not by the way you feel. It's not how you feel, but your brain will tell your body and your heart and your emotions what to do. So, an old slang is "fake it till you make it." So sometimes if you do what you want your partner to do, you're training them. They'll mirror that behavior. And for some, it may take way longer than others. So, intimacy look different to a lot of different people. Men, of course, their intimacy is more physical. You warriors. You went out there and foraged and you made frontiers and created new things. And if you don't have something to conquer, then it's the manliness seems to dissipate to some degree. You're looking for it. That's another study where men have to hold the remote control is because they need some control. And in various stages of life, particularly for people after they retire, feel powerless, have a great deal of m- manliness diminishing. And even with women who go into retirement, there are some great, great strains on the relationship. So if a woman is not providing the physical need, that's the time when you can do self-examination. Um, l- People that are loveless need love
Mm.
the most. And if someone cuts me off, or if there's someone at my job that has a personality issue,
Okay.
I would think the first thing I think is they need love. They don't have as much. So let's give them a little extra. S- So if you look inside yourself as a man and go, "Hey, if we were dating, what would I do?" You should always date your husband and wife. That's why, they go out on a date once a week and, it's so high because you can rekindle. But if you want sex, if you want that physical intimacy, are you brushing your teeth? Come on, guys. Seriously. Women need that fresh breath. They like the smell of a fresh man. Um, Mustiness is cool too. I mean, a fresh musty is delicious, doesn't have to be perfume all the time, but women have a need to have that the senses, all those senses activated. So if you cook dinner, ooh, you're getting there. You're on the way right there, so that's one of the senses. If you go ahead and put on something nice as if you were going on a date, even if you're not. Go ahead and put on the nice shirt that you leave in the back of the closet, for eventually, do those things. Get some silk underwear. Do something like, "Oh, wait a minute. What's going on over here?" So women need a little extra coaching. It takes us a little longer, and it starts with our brain. You have to make love to our brain. Uh, then it works its way down. There's, the professional brain workers called pimps, professional, and they get to the head. When you tell a woman that she's beautiful, even if she, has a few more wrinkles and a lot more gray hair, or even if they're a little overweight or a lot overweight or have the stretch marks, whatever it is, look into her eyes and let her know that she is beautiful. She must be something because you chose her. She's yours.
Mm.
You belong to her. She belongs to you. This is what you picked. So treat her like a queen and she'll treat you like a king. It's reciprocal. Although there are issues with intimacy, money is a killer. It's a killer. If you are stressing over income, it will chop the libido in half for either male or woman. It's hard because it's a brain body connection. So there are some cool little things that I have on my LinkedIn, side hustles, way to get past the stress, on my Facebook. S- So MurielHunter.com. I have an answer to get past some of those stresses so that you can get to the six. So
Mm.
if your money situation is under control, or if you work out a strategy, you work out a plan, um, talk to financial consultants, one or the other. If you're both not on board, whoever is, get it done. You don't know 100% what's going on in your partner's head. Therefore, do the work. You do the work. If you're feeling like, oh, you know, my partner doesn't feel as if I'm attractive anymore, you do the work. You start working and the it they will follow. They really will, if your relationship has hope, and I believe that all relationships have hope within reason. If you have, sexual compatibilities, that's something that you will really have to be
Mm.
flexible, compromise, and something that could easily be addressed long before you got married, and that's the best time to talk about it. Uh, I have, a Christian dating service prior, and a lot of women did not believe in sex before marriage. Therefore, that wedding day was a real different sort of situation. So if you are someone who has not had intimacy, sex in some time, second marriage, or as some of the strong believers don't have intimacy and sex before marriage, that is something that it really has to be investigated thoroughly. And that's where my coaching comes in. That's where my counseling comes in. I have a coaching business where I really, really want to talk to people before they get married
Mm.
because that's like planting the ideal plant in the best possible soil with the right fertilizer so that it's going to grow and be nurtured. If you have extreme incompatibilities before you have sex, it's so much easier. It is just a breeze to start to disconnect with that person. Say, well, the person that I'm interested in really is into choking, and I am not. And I can't. I'm not going to compromise. It's just not. I don't have any desire to go there. Um, that's it's way easier to walk away if you have not connected physically. So ideally, you would want to have counseling before marriage. Even counseling before engagement, I would say, is the best time to say, well, hey, are we on the same page financially? How do you feel about money? Because there's that big libido killer of one person who's a spender and the other one's a saver. There's going to be a lot of challenges there. And if neither are willing to work towards it or compromise, you've got a situation that will need help. So, if you're covering these areas of money, sex, and then family, particularly families that come from a different culture where it's automatic for the parents or grandparents to move in with you once they hit a certain age. In our little spoiled American culture, we're like, hey, let's get her set up in this wonderful little, development down the road. That's a big issue. You've got a trifecta of disaster: money, sex, and family. If those things aren't discussed really early in the relationship, they need to be discussed right now before anything happens, where you have to make that snap decision. I've had a number of lovely professional women that I worked with who said if their husband lost their job, they're gone,
Yeah.
gone. And as a partner, I don't think you'd have that same attitude, um, in business if you had a business partner. So, ideally, you if you're not on the same page, particularly before you get married or engaged, which is the ideal time to work all these things out and go, I'm really going for this young lady or gentleman or other. I'm really, really going. I feel like this could be the one. Well, before you totally invest wholeheartedly, 100%, work out the kinks. Work out the kinks. I've had so many young people just drunk on adrenaline and endorphins that said, I will marry this man if he's penniless. And they have something really special, but then once they get married and they haven't discussed that one wants to have endless children, have as many children as we can, and the other one says, "Oh, I don't want children. I don't want any at all." How can you compromise on that? What
Understood.
what do you do? That's why so many of these topics need to be discussed
Yeah.
early. Your daughters and sisters and loved ones, even people that have been married and are still trying to figure it out and are going into a second marriage, bringing some baggage with them. These are things that people that are middle age don't talk about because they're thinking, "Oh, we'll work it out. We can work it out." And it's extraordinary hard work. I look at it like a salmon going upstream. You could get to the top.
Exactly. I agree. These are some things which are very, um, it's very, we can resonate through our day-to-day lives. Uh, these are very important things, and I thank you for sharing this because I believe, uh, this should spread. This should spread, and this should create kind of awareness that that's true. That's really really true. Yeah. So I mean, also, I mean, when you mentioned this, from there, I have one thing in my mind. Like, um, what do you think? Or I mean, what do you say? Like, how can someone identify that if their expectations are realistic or damaging to the relationships? Because this is, I believe, somewhere in the relationship it comes.
If they're realistic, that's based on what their expectation is.
Mhm.
If a person wants children and they're not capable of
Mm.
having them, um, then are you interested in those options? Or if one of your partners are impudent, uh, say for instance it's a second or third marriage, and a man is over 65, the testosterone diminishes about 10% every 10 years. So, maybe you want, a wildcat in the bed, and that person has just a very low libido. Those expectations really have to be discussed. Again, that's something that has to start at the genesis and communicating, "Hey, you know what? I've always had to have sex every day," or, I'm not comfortable unless I know that I can or don't have to work."
Mm.
It just depends on the situation of what those expectations are, but that is the reason why a liaison, someone in my field, can talk candidly to each one of the partners, and somehow it's easier not to speak directly because you're feeling judged. If you tell your partner, "Hey, you know what? I had something else in mind." And you're so terrified you're gonna hurt their feelings, or you're so afraid of how they will take it. There are people that have done this, for a lifetime. There's a wonderful group of professionals that have taken all these hard questions and found some answers to them. So, yeah, if it's unrealistic expectations, you can always call 626-399-8639. I'll help you. I'll walk you through the process. I do offer a complimentary service where you can have one free call and see whether or not that is a realistic or unrealistic expectation. Again, ideally, for wedding parties or bride parties, women empowerment groups, I speak primarily to women because it's been proven that men hear more from another man than they hear from a woman. So I get to the women to get to the men. So, yeah, yeah. There's ongoing speaking engagements I have. I give tons of tidbits and constant pieces of information on my LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram account.
Honest. Lovely. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. And also like what's your advice for the couples who is feeling out of sync emotionally or physically? So where should they start?
the the couple that has been going through some things really need to step back and reevaluate what it is that got them
Right.
there.
Right.
Um, what what can you do? We're often looking at other people, and a really wonderful quote is, "Never expect something from someone else than that you're willing to give yourself." And living so close to Hollywood, where so many women that I run into are going to get them a professional athlete, basketball player, or somebody rich, and it's like, yeah. So that Prenuptial counseling is something that I love to do because there is a wonderful concept to that. There's some ways to discuss why and how. But again, I have a little quiz that I offer on my murielhunter.com and LinkedIn. That's a compatibility quiz that says, hey, here are some Q&As on challenges that your relationship might be facing and where you would fit into it. Is this going to be something that scores that says, "Hey, you know what? You have a very good likelihood of having a successful relationship," or it's a 50-50 at best. So it's kinda nice to have that as a starting point.
Understood. Understood. That's really lovely. Yeah. Great. Great. Lovely. It's a really great conversation, I would say. And that's the wrap for today's episode of Pleasure Principles. And I can't thank much. It's a huge thank to our guest, Muriel, for sharing her incredible insights and the real world advice on intimacy and the compatibility. I know even I do not want to move further because I'm really, really loving the conversation which is happening, which is very much relatable to our real lives and the daily life thing, which we sometimes tends to um, focus out or do not focus on. But I really wanted to have this conversation go on, but as you all aware, dear listeners, that time is constrained, so we have to move on. But yes, with this hope only that yes, we'll again come back with another episode with Muriel, where we'll be discussing about in much more details with more topics which are relatable in our day-to-day lives. So uh, if you have enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us for more empowering conversations about love, connection, and the personal growth. And do not forget to check out Muriel's transformative coaching services for the deeper guidance on building fulfilling and harmonious relationships. So, what I'll do, I'll put all the show link, all the links into the show notes for your easy reference so that you can reach out to Muriel and you can also have conversation with Muriel. So, what do you say, Muriel? Do you love to share um any Instagram handle, or how can someone connect with you? Like, if you can share.
It is murielhunter.com, which is the website, which will send it out to all of the, various links. But I am the Muriel Hunter in Menifee, California. There's a few more of us, but not many, on Facebook.
Lovely,
So
lovely, lovely, great, great. So, dear listeners, you heard it, and also I'll put this into the show notes. So, until next time, remember that pleasure begins with understanding yourself and your needs. So, stay curious, stay connected, and keep exploring. Thank you so much.
thank you. Appreciate you.